All right, guys, we're going to go through a kettlebell deadlift. The kettlebell deadlift should be an extension of what you would have already covered in the hip hinge. So please, if you have not watched that video, do that first. Okay, so there are a couple different positions to set up a kettlebell deadlift based on the position of your feet. So a traditional deadlift tends to have the feet about shoulder width apart, more of like an athletic position where you would possibly jump from, for example. So in this position, I just drop down to my hinge, I finish about here. Now, the other option with foot position is to go a little bit wider. And, you know, there's no structured rules to this. I don't think it's a bad idea to actually play with different widths. Typically, people are going to have, based on the anatomy of their hip, a preferred width. In other words, a width that's just going to feel like they're quote unquote in the slot or in their ideal position. But that doesn't mean you always need to lift from that position. You can change your width from a pretty wide sumo, drop into your hinge, or you can go a little bit more narrow, cradle to bell, and then same thing into your deadlift. Now, like I said, we usually start with the feet about shoulder width apart. The toes are going to angle, I would say, in a comfortable position. So some people, again, based on the structure of their lower body, for them, their most comfortable or neutral position is going to be toes facing pretty much straight ahead. That doesn't feel comfortable to me. It feels like I'm in a little bit of a constricted position in my hips. So I know that if I drop down, I feel a limitation in the front of my hips specifically. So if I just take my toes and let them come out a little bit, I know that I can drop into this hinge and feel like I've got a lot more room in my hips. So that's usually where we start at, but just keep in mind that you can play with a lot of different foot positions. Okay, so let's set up just a traditional stance deadlift with a kettlebell. Okay, I'm going to get right over top of this bell. So when you set up your position, and really one of the major advantages of doing a kettlebell deadlift is that you can put the center of mass right over the middle of your foot. When you use a barbell, the weight's going to be in front, and that creates a little bit of a longer lever arm, which is going to put more load on the back. So typically when we start working with people with low back pain especially, we like to start our hinge training, specifically when we're starting to load our hinge training, from the kettlebell. So get yourself right over top of the kettlebell so that if you dropped a string off your groin, it would pretty much land on the handle. So it's going to be right in the middle of your foot. Okay? And then drop into your hinge. Bend the knees to get into your traditional deadlift. Create tension from the floor. Nice strong brace. And then drive to a tall stand position. Hinge, bend, drop it back down. Now, again, just a tip, not a necessary requisite to perform this, but if you're learning, I tend to like to teach our students in singles. What I mean by that is that you perform one rep, you stand up, shake it out, reset, drop into your hinge, create your tension, stand tall, drop back down, let it go, reset, repeat. So I can also train this from a sumo position, a little bit more open, let the toes open up, drop into my hinge, finish tall, and come back down. Now, just a note on the tempo. I'm driving pretty fast to the bottom. You don't need to jump out of the bottom like that, but I do want you to focus on where you're creating your force from. A lot of people, when they set up a deadlift, or for that matter, a squat, they will lead the movement out of their chest. So when they start to pull on the weight, they start to stand up from their chest, but nothing is happening down low. This is going to result you finishing in an open scissors position. Okay, that's not a position to start your lift from. So once you get into the bottom, all you need to do is anchor your feet to the floor and just drive. And you can see what will happen is that literally it's like an elevator. So you see my trunk angle does not change here. I'm just loading from the floor, which is going to create tension away from the ground to my hands. That, okay? And then once I get that tension, drive off the feet, finish tall. Okay? So that is the kettlebell deadlift. Give her a go and have fun practicing.